Hello, everyone. My name's Kinnan. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Social Work at York University in Toronto. And I'm a settler on the land of the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. And I'm honored to be a part of this panel, thinking through questions pertaining to science and trans studies. I myself will be talking about uncertainty in gender medicine and detransition, and introducing you very briefly to the DARE study, which to date is the largest and most inclusively designed empirical study on detransition and gender fluidity. So my scholarship for the last decade has been deeply influenced by early clairvoyants in trans studies who offered us transnormativity and critiques of the science of gender medicine, of doctors' discursive deployment of evidence-based medicine to minimize clinical uncertainty. Works by Steph Shuster, Austin Johnson, and many others. And since 2014, I've specialized in studying gender medicine empirically and theoretically, including 3 recent projects that focus on detransition and gender fluidity. And it's been incredibly difficult work. Kate Sanders shared with us on Thursday that detrans research can be like path clearing. As Gloria Anzaldúa says, and translated it to English, Voyager, there are no bridges. One builds them as one walks. And so to complement my co-panelists, I'd like to bracket 2 questions to frame my talk and to foster some disciplinary reflection and growth. The first question, can trans studies provide a home for detransition research, given its likely ethical and ideological tensions and political risks? Question 2, does empirical detrans science support, confirm, or challenge theoretical knowledge produced by trans studies? So in science, to measure a phenomenon, we need to know what we're studying. But this is a problem in detrans research because there are currently no mutually agreed upon boundaries or definitions for detransition. Currently, scholars conceptualize it as stopping, shifting, or reversing a gender transition for a range of reasons, internal, external, or psychological. But these definitions are still very much up for debate. And I generally myself orient to detrans research as a practice of ethics and justice for all LGBTQ+ people. Now, science requires one to adopt a skeptical position to understand the strengths and limits of knowledge. But that criticism must be directed toward the knowledge that confirms and comforts our beliefs, as well as toward the knowledge that unsettles us. So, for example, we know very little about detransition because of study design decisions made by researchers, usually clinician scientists within gender medicine. But short data collection periods relying on clinical data often exclude detrans people who might be purposefully avoiding gender clinicians, either because of feeling harmed or simply because they no longer desire treatment. And this creates what we call survivorship bias. Or some studies require a current trans identity to participate, but many people who detransition no longer see themselves under the transgender umbrella. Other studies have required a current detransitioner identity, which by consequence creates polarization in our knowledge production about detransition. So I'm going to tell you now about the DARE study. So the DARE study is an empirical project aiming to build knowledge about detransition based on lived experiences, and for the purpose of building and developing formal support services. In terms of its methodology, it's a binational study done in the United States and Canada. It's community driven. Our team is comprised largely of trans, non-binary, detrans, and or queer people. The DARE study was pilot tested by 14 different people who are trans feminine, trans masculine, some people who are detrans, as well as some clinicians. We had a very broad sampling strategy to reach diverse experiences, and we were inclusive of social and or medical transition experiences. And we didn't require any identity component to be eligible. To promote the study, we sent out almost 2,000 emails to LGBTQ organizations, gender care providers, and former research contacts. We also did significant advertising on social media with paid ads. We spent about 7,400 and we reached 7.5 million accounts on social media. In order to include a diverse and heterogeneous pool of participants, we created 3 different flyers that would speak to different experiences, identity fluidity, to forced or external context prompting detransition. And these posters were also available in English, French, and Spanish. So to be eligible, participants had to be 16 and older, living in Canada or the US, and have an experience of ever stopping, shifting, or reversing a gender transition for any reason. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about early results. I mentioned that studying detransition is very challenging. And we encountered those challenges during the study promotion and recruitment phase. We had a total of 13 advertisements, paid advertisements, that were removed by various social media platforms. So you can see TikTok, Reddit, and Tumblr removed several of our paid ads. The identity fluidity ad was the poster that received the most number of removals. Still, we were largely successful in obtaining a large sample of eligible participants, 959 individuals who came from a wide range of referral sources. So Tumblr and Reddit were our most popular referral sources. I will mention that we targeted 30 different subreddits using paid and unpaid advertising. Meta or Instagram and Facebook were also popular referral sources, followed by Friends, Twitter, Researcher, TikTok, Discord, and so forth. We also reached a wide range of people in terms of how they understand themselves following stopping or reversing transition. 1/3 consider themselves non-binary, 43% consider themselves to be transgender, and 41% consider themselves to be detransitioned. And they could choose multiple of these descriptors. We were also interested in understanding when people started to think of themselves as trans or gender diverse. You can see here that 2014 was the most popular year in terms of a year of realization. And a majority of the sample started to think of themselves as trans in the last 10 years. Across the sample, they were a mean age of 15 when they started thinking of themselves as trans, and their current age is a mean of 26. Now, we also included a Likert scale of 21 different reasons that people could use to describe their reason for stopping or reversing their transition. These were a range of dimensions that were relating to external, internal, mental health or psychological reasons and social factors. And we applied a latent class analysis to group these detransition trajectories based on shared characteristics. So these were the different dimensions of reasons for stopping or reversing transition. You can see financial barriers, care restrictions, discrimination and lack of support, treatment dissatisfaction, shifting concept of gender, neurodiversity and worsening mental health, treatment satisfaction. And so participants could report the level of severity or the extent to which these different reasons applied to them. We found 4 different subgroups of detransition, with group A being the most largest group, with 315 people in this subgroup. Now, group A were strongly endorsing neurodiversity and mental health, shifting concept of gender, and treatment dissatisfaction as their reasons for stopping or reversing their initial transition. They were much lower in terms of selecting financial barriers or discrimination and lack of support. Group B is similar to Group A in the sense of we also see internal factors prompting detransition, shifting concept of gender, but this group is more positive about treatments, so it's much stronger on treatment satisfaction and lower on treatment dissatisfaction or complications. Group C is kind of our multidimensional group. We can see there's a lot of different factors, and the factor that is the most strongly endorsed is discrimination and lack of support, followed by treatment dissatisfaction and complication, shifting concept of gender, neurodiversity and mental health, and treatment satisfaction. It's kind of like our other multidimensional group. Group D is our second largest group in terms of numbers, 272, and it is also the most discrete or different from Group A. So they are strongly endorsing discrimination and lack of support, as well as treatment satisfaction as their reasons for stopping or reversing transition. Now, we also wanted to further understand these groups. We asked about decisional regret with medical transition. And you can see strong differences in particular between A and D. So group A has the strongest decisional regret with medical transition, whereas group D has very low levels of decisional regret. So I'm going to stop now or move over to discussion points, a few discussion points as I close. So detransition is a complex, diverse, and subjugated experience within trans studies. Producing accurate knowledge about detransition is difficult due to stigma, detransphobia, content suppression on social media, and the threat of political weaponization. So, you know, I open with the question, wondering whether trans studies is a discipline that could be a home for detransition research. And I want us to reflect a little bit, thinking about the conference theme, State of the Post-Discipline. Can trans studies offer a home for detrans research in its full complexity, inclusive of all 4 realities? And I want us specifically to think about Group A. And this is a question that I myself have really wrestled with for the last few years, and I want us to think about. What might be the ethical considerations in applying trans theories to study detransition people who may have re-identified their transness as a mediator of medical harm? Now, that said, I do believe that trans studies, together with MAD studies and disability studies, could provide a disciplinary home for detrans research. And I think that empirical detrans science also bolsters early theorizing on transnormativity and explorations of clinical uncertainty in gender medicine. And I'd love to leave us with a quote by Cameron Awkward Rich. Claims of trans sickness and maladjustment might not always be hostile to trans manifestation, might indeed be commensurate with trans liberation. They leave open the possibility that trans maladjustment might be a resource for trans thought. Some references, and please feel free to follow up with questions or feedback. Here's my email, and you can learn more about the DARE study on my TikTok. Thank you so much.